Literally today at work, I was talking to an older coworker. She's in her upper 50s. She was telling me how I have a terrible work ethic because I don't come into work 30 minutes early. I don't stay late for work. She said our whole generation, they don't make engineers like they used to. I just started laughing because she was very passionate about what she was saying and she really had no merit of what she was saying. I'm pretty sure she was just regurgitating whatever news outlet she listens to, what they say about Gen Z. It reminded me of how a lot of boomers and older Gen Xers see the Gen Z work ethic and Gen Z's kind of personality as a generation. They think we're lazy, they think we don't want to work, that we're soft, we're handed everything, and we want success and a lot of money without sacrifice, but they're just completely missing the whole framework of the way Gen Z thinks about work and life and the balance of those two things. To them, good work and quality work means you come in early to your 9-to-5 office job, you stay late, you do more than what you're paid for, you don't complain to anyone about it, and you're loyal to one company for your whole career. A lot of them assume that if you don't do that, you're lazy. If you jump ship from a big company, you just want the easy way out. And that's just not how it is. A lot of Gen Zers don't value getting to work early when we're not paid for that time, or being loyal to a company that actually doesn't have our best interests in mind, and sacrificing our free time for a company that would easily replace us tomorrow if it was in their best interest. Between AI and cheaper labor in India, Fortune 500 companies are replacing Gen Zers at the click of a button. A lot of companies don't see their employees as people, they see them as a means to an end to make more corporate profit. Gen Zers don't hate work. We just don't want to put work into something that actually doesn't matter in the end. So you might ask, why doesn't Gen Z buy into company loyalty and trust their employer has their best interest? Well, we grew up in the housing crisis where a lot of our parents lost their jobs. Even if they didn't lose their jobs, they maybe got laid off for a little bit or furloughed. Pay was a lot less. We saw our parents struggle in that housing crisis, which had nothing to do with their work ethic. Our parents did everything right and they still could get laid off just because of somebody higher up approving a massive layoff. I literally had a friend this month, he's in his 30s, and he was a good employee. He was at the bottom, but he was doing his job well, and he got laid off because, he works for a very big company and they're trying to make cuts, and the easiest way to do that is laying people off. And the big problem is the people making the layoff decisions don't see that extra 30 minutes of you getting into work early. They don't see you staying after work late to get that deadline finished on time. They don't see your unpaid effort and your quote unquote loyalty. All they see is profits going down and easy ways to cut costs and boost profit margin. Gen Z sees that and they don't want to spend their whole lives building up a company that doesn't actually help their lives at all or look out for their future at all. From my perspective, it seems like a lot of Gen Xers and boomers just take a lot of pride in being the hardworking generation, the hardworking person. They like to see themselves as reliable and loyal and going above and beyond for their company because they have a great work ethic. And a lot of times they'll use that pedestal that they put themselves on as a generation to judge younger workers for not wanting to show up to work 30 minutes early, or not really caring if we show up 5 minutes late because it's 5 minutes and what are you even getting done in 5 minutes? Really, you're just sitting down and getting coffee or asking your coworkers how their weekend was. I think another reason that older generations have this kind of pride and maybe judgment towards Gen Z is their work is their identity. The first thing they go talk to people about is, oh, what do you do for work? And, oh, how long have you worked there for? And really, I think their whole identity is tied up in their work and the company they work for, the work they do, which this isn't entirely bad, but maybe it's a warped view of reality. The work they do makes them feel important and respected, needed and appreciated. And maybe they don't feel that way at home in their marriage, their kids, their families. They don't feel as appreciated, respected, and important as they would like. So they, subconsciously shift their importance and identity towards their job, because the corporation will say that they need you and they respect you and they appreciate you. But like I was saying, at the flip of a dime, if profits drop, you're gone. The last reason I think that older people still buy into this old system of corporate loyalty and showing up early and staying late is they genuinely believe that if you put in the hard work now, the company will reward you with an equally satisfying reward. I think we can all just agree that's just not true. I mean, literally at my company, they have these incentive rewards for the whole company. EBITDA by 20% year over year. Sales has to go up, other financial KPIs. And first of all, if we got these KPIs, our reward was like $1,500 each, which is basically pathetic. I mean, that's not even a paycheck. So it really doesn't impact our lives at all, even if we make that reward. Basically, last year we didn't get that. We were just like 1 percentage point short of our sales target, and we didn't get any of the reward. That just shows you that the company made all but the profit they were going to, but they didn't pay out their incentive bonus to the employees down below, which is just insane. Even those numbers can completely be manipulated by financial people. So maybe we even hit those numbers, but the executives in the finance department could easily manipulate those numbers to make the actual results slightly below our targeted goals, and that way they wouldn't have to pay out the incentive bonus. It cost the company a few $1 million, maybe $10 or $20 million, but in the grand scheme of things, that's a drop in the bucket for a company our size. That was just one small example to me how the company really doesn't have our best interests in mind. And even if you just do a little bit of research or read a little bit of history, companies always overstep their boundaries with employees. And yes, there are ways that the government has prevented that and unions and everything have prevented that, but really they can't help themselves. And I don't blame the companies. It's part of what a business is. They exist to create profits and grow, basically. Even when businesses do nice things for employees like benefits, bonuses, insurance, and perks, it's really not about them caring for you. It's about employee retention, more productivity, and reducing turnover costs. Because when an employee leaves, it's not just a one-for-one replacement. There are a lot of costs associated with recruiting a new employee, interviewing the new employee, lost time because of their trying to replace the employee. And then even when you get to hire that employee, there's still a ton of time invested to train them to the company standards and to following as standard operating procedures. Even when the company feels like they're doing nice things to you, it's usually kind of masqueraded as just trying to keep employee retention and increase productivity and reducing the turnover costs. And like I said, it's not an evil thing. I think that's just how living in a capitalistic society is. It's how business is. I'm not mad at any one particular business or person. That's just how it is. And Gen Z sees it for what it is, and we fight to break out of that system. At least a lot of us do. What I'm seeing is, as I interact with more boomers and Gen Xers, they have a hard time understanding the Gen Z mindset financially. Their version of the story is, oh, I bought my house for $80,000. I put 25% down. I got a 15-year mortgage and I paid it off early in 10 years. Yes, they did that. And that worked for them back then. The system is the same, but it was broken back then and it's even more broken now. It's on an exponential trajectory to get even worse for our children. I mean, just to name a few of the reasons how it's broken and will continue to be broken and how that framework doesn't work for Gen Zers nowadays. One, starter homes the average home price is over $400,000. When you have an interest payment on a $350,000 house at 6%, you're paying over $1,500 a month on interest alone. That is way more than boomers and Gen Xers were paying for their mortgage in relation to their income. I really wanted to break out of this, and when my wife and I were looking for a house, we wanted to buy a duplex because we wanted to offset the cost of the mortgage. We had a few offers put in. We put in maybe 5 offers for different duplexes or different houses that could have been converted into a duplex because I'm pretty handy. Basically what happened was we didn't have enough money, we didn't have enough cash, and the homes were just going for insanely way over asking prices. Specifically for one, the house was listed for like $300,000 and we put in an offer for $300,000 with an escalation clause up to $315,000, and the house sold for $350,000 cash offer. We can't compete with that. We have a measly down payment for a house that size. So instead, we bought a $260,000 house. We put down 10% and our mortgage mortgage is over $1,900 a month. And that's before maintenance, repairs, upgrades, which we want to do. And that is crazy compared to our income. That's like a full paycheck of an engineer's salary. So there goes half of the money I'm going to make in a month. Over half, actually. And that's before any of the other things like utilities, repairs, maintenance. Over 50% of my take-home pay goes to housing. That is a broken system. And I went to college. I got a good degree. I got an amazing job. And it still feels like I can't get ahead. And I think it's hard for boomers to understand that because they did the exact same thing as what they told us to do. And they got ahead. They became millionaires. That actually, it meant something back then. And you could get ahead. But it's the same system, but it's just even more broken. The bigger problem of this is the people that own assets win big time, and the people that don't own assets get squeezed and squeezed and squeezed. And honestly, it's all because of inflation. So boomers bought their houses 40 years ago. First off, they're all paid off. Second off, they've been through housing crashes and huge inflation spikes and stock market growth, and basically their houses are probably worth 4, 5, 6 times what they paid for their house. Gen Z incomes comparatively have definitely not 5, 6, 7x in the last 40 years. The people that don't own assets, which are younger Gen Zers, still have to pay for things like student loans, rent, groceries, gas, cars, restaurants, and everyday living costs, and all of those are just getting much more expensive. And with an entry-level job, it makes it feel impossible to just get ahead and save some money for our future. On top of that, we get taxed more than what they did back then. The government keeps growing, which means our taxes have to keep growing. Literally this year, felt like we were getting ahead, and I take out over 50% of my gross pay to go to taxes and 401k, health insurance. It's mostly taxes though. And at the end of the year, we still owed like $6,000 out of pocket. It just sucks, and it's discouraging. You know, we're working 2 jobs. I have a side hustle. We're trying to get ahead. And then tax season comes, we still owe money. It's just ridiculous. So really, all that to say is Gen Z is frustrated. It's not that we don't want to work. I mean, don't get me wrong. Some days I just want to lay in bed. And I literally said to my brothers, I want to have a 3-month vacation with no responsibilities and no schedule. And I just want to be at home and just live and see what happens. Like, I don't even know what that would feel like because I'm just working all the time to pay bills. Like, it just feels so pointless. When I sit and think about it, it just makes me depressed and like I don't know what to do about it. So, and then the problem is our hard work doesn't feel like it's achieving anything. It doesn't feel like it's moving towards financial freedom and security and overall happiness. And I know money doesn't buy happiness, but certainly feeling more secure and stable and free would make you more happy. Am I right? Or am I just crazy? Gen Z is just frustrated, and we see what worked for our parents and boomers and Gen Xers, and it just flat out does not work the same anymore. We have to hustle so much more. We have to work on our weekends to get ahead the same way that boomers could just by working a regular job after going to college and getting a degree. And I want to be fair to boomers and Gen Xers. Not all of boomers and Gen Xers think this way. I've met plenty who are definitely sympathetic to our situations and definitely more understanding and empathize with us, but it's more than you would think who don't empathize with Gen Zers. They speak out actively against Gen Z and our work ethic and our attitude towards life. Yeah, it makes for an interesting conversation at work, I'll just say that. So if I could say anything to an older generation, before you speak and make judgments about the Gen Zers, just do a little research. You don't even have to go on the internet to do this. Just call your grandkid or your son or daughter and ask them like how they're feeling about the economy, how they're feeling about buying a house and trying to retire and getting ahead in this system. And after you do that, if their answer surprises you or it doesn't really align with what I'm saying, do some research. Like get on the internet and just look at some articles that have compared the average income versus the average home price and monthly cost of living from like 1980 until 2026. Look at a chart. I mean, a picture is worth 1,000 words. You can see the home prices go up exponentially. Wages do not go up exponentially. They stagnate. They go up a couple percentage each year, but it's not exponential. Another thing I could say is just try to empathize. I mean, you were young once. You were naive. You felt like you had a future ahead of you, and I'm sure there were times where you felt kind of meaningless or your work wasn't what people made it out to be. So I think just listening to them, actually wanting to understand, not just thinking about your next rebuttal I think it would mean a ton to your Gen Z counterpart. And this is where I kind of get excited and passionate. Even though the system and the economy has made it a lot harder for Gen Zers, we also have an insane amount of opportunity. I mean, think about it. Like, the internet wasn't even a thing in the 1980s. Now we have all these social media platforms, remote work and content creation and side hustles. I don't even think those things were a thing back in like the 70s and the 80s when Gen Xers and boomers were like growing up and starting their careers. And now we just have like an insane amount of potential and opportunity because we grew up with the internet and with social media. We're able to build skills and harness it and build an audience and a community. There's a way to get scalable income and a way to get out of this wage slavery that corporate America kind of puts on us. And that's where I get more hopeful and less depressed about my future as a Gen Zer. I just see that there's so much opportunity out there. Yeah, it makes me hopeful for the future, for my family, to have scalable income and some sort of financial freedom and freedom of my time to pursue passions, pursue my family and wife. Sometimes I really do feel trapped. I have a 9-to-5 and even though I have 18 days of paid time off, it still feels extremely limiting and trapped. Since I have to work an entire year, which is over 200 days of working days. I think it's like 250 working days, and I get 18 of those days off. So just to close, Gen Z does not hate work. We just don't want to waste our lives on something that is meaningless in the long run, like corporate America and just climbing the ladder. I think if older generations reframed their thinking, just gave Gen Z an opportunity to explain why we don't want to come in 30 minutes early every day, because that adds up to spending years of our lives volunteering basically for corporate America to make more profits. And I think we've opened our eyes a little bit and saw that for what it is. If you made it this far, I really appreciate you tuning in for this rant. I hope it made a little sense and I hope you resonated with it. If you did, feel free to subscribe, click the like button. I'd really appreciate it. And I'll see you at the next one.